Real quick, I absolutely should not release this video. Like, I know so many people I've worked with in the past who would say, Rock Wilk, don't you dare release that. Do not dare put that out into the universe. Do not dare say the things that you're saying. Don't ever apologize for your work. And don't ever, ever ruin the experience of other people who are receiving your work. It's not your place. It's none of your business what other people feel. But I'm going to release it because, first of all, it's me. And I'm being really honest. And I also think that a lot of people who create art, write plays, make screenplays, make films, do things like that, I think that you are going to be able to relate to this. Like, this is what I was honestly feeling, and it's something that's been kind of like following me around, and it's just something that's bothering me. So I'm not apologizing for my work. I'm not saying anything bad about it. I'm just telling you honestly what was going on in my head, and what goes on in my head, and pretty much what I experience all the time when I make work. Like, I'm a perfectionist. I'm always trying to get exactly what I want. But the thing about art is that you can never really get exactly what you want, Like, you have to be open to what happens as you're creating this work. Like, you might have an idea at the beginning and think you know exactly what it's going to look like or how it's going to turn out. But then by the time you get to the end of it, you've had to jump through so many hoops, climb so many mountains, like overcome so many obstacles, that unless you have a lot of resilience, you would never finish anything. I mean, it's just a fact. Like, you would never finish anything if you were not open to changing constantly. But that means that usually when you get to the end, if you're a perfectionist, it's going to be like a choice between not getting what you want and finishing, or not finishing ever. And that is the thing that is like a non-negotiable, like absolute rule, that you must know how to finish work. You have to finish. And so just bear that in mind when you watch this video. Like, I'm not trying to be self-deprecating or anything like that, but I'm just being honest with you, and I think it's like a really good video that people will relate to, and something to think about. But most importantly to me, understand that I personally think the most important thing that we could do is come up with an idea, commit to the process, and finish, and then move on to the next one, and just keep going, and just never stop creating. Don't ever think that this is the project of your life, that's just not the case. Just keep it moving. Learn from everything that you do, and try to do the best that you can in that moment. That's it. And even if you don't feel like you did your best, you did your best for that moment. If you're really committed to it, if you're really somebody who knows how to work hard and be diligent and be honest with yourself, you did the best you could. But that doesn't mean it's not going to really bother you forever. And so check out the video. My first film, The Center of Distance, at least in my opinion, is so much better than my second film, even though I knew so much more about what I was doing with regards to the filmmaking aspect, and I shot it with a proper camera, and the first film I shot with my phone. But the thing is, I shot my first movie out of complete necessity. Like, I had to shoot that film. It was originally a play that got canceled, and I just felt like I needed to do that. Otherwise, I didn't know what I would do. Like, I was so disappointed. I just needed to do it. So I just picked up a phone, and during the pandemic, I just shot this movie all over New York City, mostly in my neighborhood in the Bronx. Look, I know that as artists, we're not supposed to do this, you know what I mean? But I just think, if I'm going to make a YouTube video, I'm going to bring some serious value to the table. And I'm going to talk about stuff that nobody really talks about, because we're afraid to talk about stuff like this. Like, whether you're a musician a theater artist, a filmmaker, a painter, a sculptor, whatever you are, you know that these feelings go through your head, you know, where you finish something and then you're forced to be completely proud of it, because once it's out there in the public, you know, you're not supposed to, like, you know, say anything that takes away from somebody else's experience of receiving your work. You're not supposed to, like, you know, hurt your collaborators, because if you say something, it's going to kind of maybe color people's, you know, perception of that work after you say stuff, because after all, you're the person who created it. Like, you wrote it, you made it out of thin air. Like, you created this thing that nobody really can ever comprehend how you even do that, you know? But just because it's finished and just because you put it out there doesn't mean that you're really proud of it, you know? But in my second film, I had actually 56 pages that I lost that was originally in that script that didn't wind up in the movie. And it was because that film was not supposed to be all just me. You know, I had some other people in the movie and things just didn't work out, and I wound up having to do the whole thing myself again. And so I had to change things on the fly constantly for the second film. And those 56 pages were, in my opinion, the best writing, you know, that I had done for that film. And I couldn't quite recapture what I wanted. And I know you're proud of it on certain levels. You know what I mean? Like, it does take a lot to finish. It takes a lot to even start. And it certainly takes a lot to continue the journey while you're working on it, when you're experiencing all these problems along the way that feels like, you know, makes you feel like the entire universe is conspiring against you to get this thing done in the way that you want to get it done, you know? And, you know, the other thing for the second film, snow was like a huge part of the story. And of course, that winter, it didn't snow once where I was, like not one snowfall. So I had to change the script with regards to that as well, because like I said, it had a lot to do with the storyline. Things that are like unforeseen problem, you know, unforeseen issues that you couldn't have, you know, planned for when you started this whole thing. And so, yeah, you're not always happy with it. You know, you're not always, I mean, sometimes, I hesitate to say this, but sometimes you're almost embarrassed by it, you know? But, you know, like, technically, I knew what I was doing. You know, suddenly I was shooting with a proper camera. I shot the whole film with a Panasonic S5. I used 2 vintage lenses, and I knew what I was doing, and the footage looks amazing. I mean, it's beautiful. It's just spectacular, in my opinion, you know? And it just looks more like a big movie, you know? But the story doesn't feel as much as the first film does. And what I mean is, the first film feels raw. It feels like the first film that I ever shot. It feels like it came from my spleen, like from inside of my body. And the second film, as much as I think a lot of people would argue with me, and it's gotten some good feedback, but I'll tell you why I'm making this video in a few minutes. And then when other people do judge it, and they do say exactly what you're feeling, that messes up your head, because you're hearing it from other people and you knew it, and your instincts told you don't put it out there. But it just felt different to me. And, you know, the thing is, I think an important thing for any storyteller, any artist, you know, whether you're doing theater or film or, you know, any art form, is to be honest with yourself, you know, to be genuine, to be completely transparent spiritually about the work. And I know that This Is the End for Me is not as good as The Center of Distance. I know the story is not as strong in terms of crafting a story, in terms of telling the story. And I know that there were so many compromises in that film that, as much as people love it so much, supposedly, it's hard for me to believe that, but as much as they do, and as much as we got, you know, a Best Feature Film Award at the Manhattan Film Festival, I don't accept it. But sometimes you got to put it out there. You know what I mean? Sometimes you're just done. You can't do your best work every single time. You know, if you're really an artist and you're willing to take chances and take risks and get out there and put yourself in situations that are not so comfortable for you, you know, put yourself in that out of your comfort zone place, you're not always going to wind up with something that, you know, it's like not your thing necessarily sometimes, you know what I mean? Like sometimes it's not exactly the way you would have done it, or, you know, maybe sometimes you try to do things in a way that you're being very optimistic, like, oh, I can get it done. No problem. You know what? I'll do it myself. I'm not waiting for money. I'm not waiting for other people. You're frustrated out of your brains because you couldn't get a grant. You couldn't raise any money. You couldn't do anything. You feel bad about raising money after a time because that's just the way society kind of is. You know what I mean? Like it makes you feel bad. I don't want to take anything away from anybody watching the film because, you know, if you love the film and if you enjoy it, I would never inject my opinion into you, what you've received. And the only reason I'm doing this is because I'm trying to make a point in a YouTube video for people who make films, for other creators. I'm trying to tell you that we know when we've done our best work, and we know when something just didn't quite reach the finish line that we had hoped to get to. Because art is not really celebrated in our society, let's face it. You know, most people will look at you if you're not a celebrity and say, yo, when are you going to get a real job? You know, when are you going to grow up? You know, when are you going to realize that you're not going to make it? You know, you're not in the winner's circle. You're not one of those people making all that money. You don't even have a house. You know, you don't have kids. You're not even living like an adult life. Like you're living like a child. These are the things people say to you all the time. Or sometimes they're unspoken, but you can just feel it. You know what I mean? And you start to lose friends as a result of it. And so anyway, I digress. And it doesn't mean it's bad. And it doesn't mean it's not worthy of being a finished work of art, and a finished, you know, project. It doesn't mean that at all. But it means for you personally, and in this case for me personally, you know, I'm just never going to be completely happy with that film. And the funny thing is, The Center of Distance, my first movie, I'm completely happy with that film, even though the image quality is not as good as it should be. Like when I look at it now, it's almost cringeworthy to me. Like it could have looked so much better, but it looks as good as a lot of old movies. You know what I mean? Like it looks like what it feels like. It's gritty. It's the Bronx, you know, it's a story of, you know, somebody who is gritty. Like it just works, you know, even though if I shot that film now, it would technically look so much better. But I don't know if I would have captured the same essence that I captured if I ever did it again. And I would never do it again. I never go back and redo anything. I'm just saying that sometimes you put it out there and it's not what you wanted it to be. And as much as you shouldn't say anything about it, this is what you feel. Sometimes you're tortured by it forever. Like sometimes you feel guilty that you even put it out there because feel like maybe you blew an opportunity, like maybe you shouldn't have submitted it, maybe you should have waited a year, finished it the way you wanted to finish it, and then submit it. Be patient. But that's ridiculous, because what if you die during the year? What if the world changes? What if that thing that you wanted to submit to doesn't exist in a year? Like you have to do things in the moment. You have to take advantage of opportunities. You have to be in the moment and do stuff now. That's why I'm working on a project now that's kind of odd for me, because I am going back to a project that I wrote already, which was actually the original script to This Is the End for Me, my second film. But I don't feel like I'm going back and redoing anything because I never got to do it. You know, the pandemic shut it down. I never got to perform it. So I feel like I'm bringing something back to life that died before it had a chance to actually live. And also realize that what you're doing is not your life's work. You know what I mean? There's no such thing as your life's work unless you're working on one thing for your whole life. And you know, I don't think many artists do that. You know what I mean? Like if you're really an artist, you know, experiencing the world, living in the world, you know, paying attention to things around you, you know, participating in life, then you're going to create art around all of that all the time. It's going to be coming out of you constantly, you know, just oozing out of your pores. You're going to be dreaming about it. You're going to be thinking about it when you're in the shower, when you're cooking, when you're putting your clothes on, when you're working some other stupid job, when, you know, when you're in the bathroom. Like, you're going to be thinking about these stories that you want to create off of everything that you see around you all the time, because you can't stop. I'm making this video because, you know, I submitted this to the Garden State Film Festival, and I have pretty deep roots in Asbury Park, New Jersey. I lived there for a few years, And I had an incredible experience while I was there, and I was really embraced by the artistic community in Asbury Park. I made some great friends there. I had some just, you know, really special experiences down there, creatively and personally. And so I really wanted to be in the Garden State Film Festival. It takes place in Asbury Park, and it's run by a lot of people in Asbury Park. And, you know, being an artist, being sensitive and all that kind of stuff, of course, when I got rejected, I felt like they hate me, and I was like, you know what, fuck you too. Because you're an artist, you're a creative spirit, you're a soul who just needs to make things, you know, like just make stuff. That's what I always say to people, just make stuff, you know? And we do it because we have to, because we would die if we didn't do that, because we would have like an aneurysm inside of our body, because this stuff grows inside of us and it needs to come out and we need to share it. That's what I felt like, if I'm being really honest, because I felt like the film is worthy of being in the festival. But then, you know, I felt like I wanted to make this video because I feel like it could have been so much better. You know, like I feel like they didn't get my best work, you know? They didn't get what I really wanted them to get for that film. And so maybe I'm so hurt by the rejection because I know that it probably should have been rejected. For me, that's like this incessant desire and need to share art with people, you know, which is kind of crazy when you think about it, because what makes me think, you know, what makes me think that anybody else is interested in what I want to share, you know? But yet I do it all the time, you know, and I think that people are going to get something out of it. But that is an important issue as well, because therein lies the very definition of what you should be doing when you make art. And I'm kind of speaking for other people now, which I really shouldn't do, but I'm saying a lot of things I shouldn't say here. So let me just keep going. But when you create art, you should be creating art that you're interested in. And not to take anything away from it, again, it's a really good movie. And I think if you watch it, I think you would agree. It's something that's very special. It was very hard for me to get through it. I was going through like kind of a mental health thing during the making of that film, and I actually almost didn't make it through that film, to be honest with you. But still, it could have been much better. It wasn't the best of me, and I think The Center of Distance, I could honestly say, was the best of me in that moment in my life. You know, my first foray into filmmaking. And I'm more proud of that project than I am of This Is the End for Me. Although This Is the End for Me, I'm proud of the fact that I finished it, because it was hard for me to care about that film in the headspace that I was in. And I was going through some drama with, you know, some people involved in the film, and I was just down, you know, like I was not happy with the way things were happening during the process of making that film. But it's also a testament to, in my opinion, the most important thing is to finish, you know. You're not creating art for other people. You're not creating art for what you think people are waiting for, you know, what the public wants, what's popular, what's trending, you know, what's the thing that's going to get you a record deal or get you that deal to get somebody to, you know, fund your film or your play or whatever. You don't do that. You create art around what compels you to make something, what feels important to you, what feels crucial to you, that you absolutely need to make this art, to tell this story, that you feel so absolutely desperate to share this with other people, you know, to tell somebody what you know, what you heard, what you think, what you feel. That's the way to create art, like something that comes out of you, because if it doesn't come out of you, you feel like it's going to kill you. You know, you feel like it's going to kill everybody. You know, it makes you feel completely isolated if you don't make it and then put it out there. And however you put it out there, whether it be an art gallery or a theater space or, you know, a big screen or streaming or whatever you do, you have plenty of opportunities to do it, especially in this world, you know, to endeavor upon a project and to commit to getting to the end of it. And I did that. I did finish it, and I did some great editing. I actually did some amazing editing, because there was some stuff in there. I don't want to be specific because it'll hurt somebody's feelings, but I had to work so hard, like jump through hoops, to make some stuff fit in that film that did not fit at first, and it's just seamless now. Like, I learned so much from that process of making that film, so I'm proud of that. But that brings me back to to where I started this, which is if you do that, and if you follow that, and if you're really this crazy artist that has to do this all the time, you're not always going to do what you think is your best work, what you think is your brilliant, brilliant output, the stuff that you do, your style, your thing. This is me. This has me written all over it. Yeah, it might have you written all over it, but it might not be your best. But I guess what I'm saying is that at the end of the day, I feel like there's value in everything that we do, even if we're not 100% proud of what we finished. As long as there's a certain level of excellence that we get to, like, to me, I feel like I'm always starting at a certain level that's already really good, Not to sound like an asshole, but that's just where I feel like I'm at in my career, I mean, I know when I get on stage as a theater artist, I know what that is. Like, I can unapologetically say that it starts from a place of a high level of performance and writing and sharing, and storytelling and all the good stuff. And the same thing with my filmmaking now. I know it's good, but that doesn't mean that I think it's good for me, at the level that I wanted it to be at. That's what you think. That's what we think. You might think everything that I do is brilliant. You might think I'm a genius. You might have watched This Is the End for Me and thought, oh my God, that's the best movie I've ever seen in my life. I will never forget it. That has changed me. I have to share this with everybody I know in the world. You might think that, but I don't think that. And that's why I shouldn't say this, because I have no right to step in the middle of what you feel and what I feel. I have no right to, it's none of my business what you feel. It's just my hope. I hope that you get something out of it. And that's the thing too. Whether I'm proud of it or not, whether I've done my best work, whether I've done something that I think brings out my genius, my brilliance, all that, like whether I feel so proud or not, it doesn't mean that I have any idea how you're going to respond to it. I have no idea. And it's not for me to have any idea. It's just for me to do it, to make, like, to think about it, to create it, to go through the whole process, because that's really what makes my life worth living for me. It's the process. And that's something that we should always strive for, but we should also know when it's time to be finished and just put it out there and get on to the next project. It's the journey. It's the making of. It's everything that I have to go through to get it done, to make a movie, to write a play, to get a play up on its feet, to make an album. It's everything that I have to go through. That is what makes my life worth living. And then I share it because I need to, like, I want to share it. That's just the kind of artist I am. Like, I absolutely have to do that. I never look at a project as the best work of my life, the project of my life, because I know that until I die, I am always going to be looking forward to the next project. That's just the way I am. That's the way I work. I can never stop. I'm always thinking of the next thing that I'm going to do. But it's not for me to have anything to do with the reception of it. That's why reviews, like when I get great reviews, I appreciate it, but I don't really take it seriously because I know that there's going to be a review also that's like, I don't know how much I liked it, because people like different things. Everything's a matter of taste. You never know. That's the beautiful thing about humanity. We're all so different. We come from different places. We come from different cultures. We come from different experiences. We've all gone through different things. Some of us have been oppressed. Some of us have been, ultimately privileged. I mean, we're all different. We all look at things differently, and that's what's beautiful. And so you should really watch The Center of Distance, my first movie. I am most proud of that movie as a filmmaker because it's my first film, because it's not technically perfect, but it really shows you what you could do with a phone and with some ingenuity and with some dedication and commitment and desire and this undying, interminable need to get something out there, to share a story that you feel is so important and honoring something that needs to be documented and live forever in the world. I'm proud of all of those things that I accomplished that with an LG V40, having no idea what I was doing at the beginning, and finishing that project as a full-blown professional filmmaker who now gets paid by other people to do stuff. That's why, a director once said to me that your story Even if it's all about you, it's not a good story until it's all about all of us. And that is what I hope for with everything that I do. I hope, you know what? People are going to be able to relate to this because I think it's common. But I might be wrong. And who now gets to work on films, you know, reaching for a higher bar of excellence in what my finished product will be, hopefully. And that's what I'm talking about here with this video. Like, this is what I often think, and I believe, well, I know for a fact, because I've talked about this with other artists, friends of mine. I know that people go through this, but they don't often speak it out loud. Because once they put it out there, they're very sensitive about it too, and they don't want anybody else to criticize it. They want people to love it, and if you don't love it, quite often they get offended by that. But I think, and you know, I've been there, but I think that's because we know that what you're saying is true, because every response to your work is true. Every reception that someone has to your art is the truth. It's how they feel. You can't do anything about that. You should not judge it. It's got nothing to do with you. It's just what it is. But also knowing that it'll never be perfect, that I'll never be completely pleased with anything that I do, because, you know, we're constantly improving, we're constantly getting better, constantly getting new ideas in our head, constantly being inspired by other people. And so, yeah. And so hopefully, if you're being honest, and if you believe in humanity, and if you believe in the fact that we're all pretty much the same and we all want the same things, you know, to be safe, to be warm in the winter, to be cooled off in the summer, to be fed, to be loved, you know, if you really believe in humanity, then you're going to write in a way that you feel relates to as many people as possible, you know? Like maybe a sociopath is not going to be able to relate to my work. That's about the only person, you know, who I don't think is going to feel what I do, but that's how I feel. I feel when I started, my intention is that it's for everybody. You know, I've been in situations where people are like, you know, what's your target audience? And I'm like, the entire human race. And people think I'm so stupid for saying that, but that is how I feel. This is the end for me, is something that will stick with me and inspire me to consistently do better, you know, to try my hardest to not compromise, to figure out a way to get what I want no matter what, because I do feel like I compromised quite a bit on that film. I want everybody to be able to relate to something. You know, when I create characters in a story, I want everybody to see themselves in every character that I make. You know, men see themselves in the women, women see themselves in the men, straight people see themselves in gay people see themselves in the straight people, you know, white people see themselves in the black people in white people, you know, yellow people and brown people. Like, I want everybody to see a piece of themselves in somebody else, because we are all the same on a basic level. We are. I even missed the shot at the end that I thought would have made it a perfect film. And I missed the shot because I wasn't patient. And I will never tell anybody what that shot is, but I know that I missed it, and it would have made it a perfect film to me. And maybe then I wouldn't feel the way I feel, but, you know, adding the 56 pages to that shot, it bothers me, it tortures me. You know, I think about it a lot. You know, I just can't let it go. But, you know, I don't mean I can't let it go or I can't work on new stuff. It ain't no, you know, it ain't like that deep. You know what I mean? It doesn't stop me, but I feel like everybody at least deserves to be safe, to be fed, all those things, to be loved, to feel valued, you know, to have opportunity. And so if you write with these things in mind, and if you create with these things in mind, even if it's a painting, I know that you have the hope, you know, the desire that everybody can get it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like when artists say, hey, you know what? Nobody's really going to get this because they think it's at such a high level. There's no such thing as that level. You know what I mean? If your stuff is deep and layered and complex, that's fine. But everybody has the potential to understand that stuff. And I think that's our job as artists, to break it down so that anybody can understand it, whether they have a degree in physics or they haven't graduated high school. And they've had to raise a family all by themselves because they haven't had the opportunities that other people have had. And so they couldn't afford to go to school, so they've been working since they're 7 years old. Like, you can write for that person too. Or you can write for the person who's grown up with trust funds and pay, had their parents pay for their college and, gotten these, massive degrees in economics and finance, and they're trading bonds and doing all this shit and making all this money. Hopefully, they somehow maintain their humanity along the way. Hopefully. I just, I'm a perfectionist, and every time, I looked at that movie recently and I watched it, and as much as I adore it, there are just those things that bother me, that just make me not want to watch it again. But that's the intention that you have to have if you're an artist. That I think you have to believe that people are good, and people have empathy. People understand one another if we can help them. That's when an artist thinks, like, I can maybe help you to understand by creating a story, by taking hard, difficult, ridiculous, horrific things and turning them into something beautiful that we can all come together on, like a group hug, and just all deal with it at the same time together in a movie or in a play or in a song or whatever. So I hope I didn't ruin anybody's experience, and I still want you to watch it, but I really want you to watch my first movie, The Center of Distance, which, there are links in the description of this video. You can watch it on Vimeo on demand if you want to support me and pay $3.99 or whatever it is, or don't tell anybody, it's here on YouTube for free. But anyway, it doesn't mean that I'm always going to be happy about it, And I know in the case of This Is the End for Me, that movie bothers me. But on the other hand, I think it's fucking awesome. I really do. And I'm really proud of it. And the score, Steve Peckman, Ian Smith, Barbara Annell, they came up with some amazing music, and I had nothing to do with the music. I just basically told Steve, who's the musical supervisor, my work needs to feel like Cinema Paradiso. Now, that's Ennio Morricone creates the music in that film. I don't think I have to explain it any more than that I just want people to feel all of that. That's it. And so I'm so proud of what they did, Although here on YouTube, you got to put up with commercials. On Vimeo, you could see it all the way through without commercials, the way it is designed to be received, in the way that I wish you would receive it. The Center of Distance, my first movie, and it'll always be my first, And I'm proud of what I accomplished in finishing the film, and I know all that I had to go through to get there. I know that most people would never have finished that film. No way. I know this, I know that most people could not have even written that script. I know that most people have no idea how to use a camera the way I know how to use it. I know that most people would not have been able to shoot that film with one camera all by themselves. I know that. I know most people wouldn't have been able to get the sound together. They would not have been able to edit it by themselves, get the color grading correct. I know that most people would not have been able to do that, to shoot with vintage manual lenses with no autofocus. None of that. To know how to expose properly, to, get their locations together, be willing to go to these crazy locations, hundreds and hundreds of miles apart. For what? Without any backing, without any money, without any pay, actually losing money. I know that most people wouldn't have been able to do that, and wouldn't have even bothered to do that. But I also know that at the end of the day, none of that matters. Nobody cares. Nobody who sits down and watches that movie is thinking of any of that for even 1 second of one day. Like, they ain't thinking about it. They're just receiving my movie. And whether they like it or not, it's none of my business. It's just my hope, I hope they love it. I hope you love it. But it's none of my business. I love it so much. And if you're a cinematographer, maybe you'll hate it. But I think if you're a human being, you would love it. And that's what I wanted to share today. So I'm going to get on with this day. I hope you're having a great day. But these are the things that we think as artists. And if you're an artist watching this, you go through this sometimes. You think it. You might not admit it, but you know that you do. You doubt yourself. You know that you have these insecurities, and you know that you have to overcome them all the time. But that's what makes you so awesome. That's what makes you so amazing, because most people wouldn't do that. But also, you know, the thing is, like, if you're a real artist, you have no choice. You got to do that no matter what, because that's what you are, you know? That's what you are. It's not so much what you do as much as it's what you are. It's who you are. And so you're going to do it no matter what, if you're the real deal. You know, if you're somebody who gives up in the middle of it or just lets it go, it doesn't make you a bad person. But in my opinion, you're not quite as much of an artist as people who do finish. You might be more talented than them. You might be better than them as a singer, a cinematographer, actor, whatever, but you're not as good as an artist as they are if you give up, because a true artist never quits. A true artist never gives up. A true artist never relents, ever. They don't. They trudge through, they power through, they get it done. And they do the best that they can possibly do. And then they are fucking tortured after they finish, because they never quite get to the top of the mountain, in my opinion. At least that's how I feel most of the time. Please subscribe, please hit the like button, all that kind of good stuff. I know I've done some incredible work. I know that there have been times where people have called me a genius or called me brilliant or whatever. I accept that. I feel like that's true sometimes. But other times I feel like, really? You know that ain't true. No. But see, that's where I'm wrong, because if that's how they really feel, then I should allow for that, and I should never say anything, and I don't. I don't ever say anything. This is for the artists, this video. This video, and this is for a video for people who are not artists, who want to get into the head of somebody who creates. If you really want to know the torture and why some artists take their own lives, because they're actually paralyzed by this sometimes. They are absolutely oppressed by it. And that's the truth. And I'll see you in a minute. So, yeah, I just want to get in here and interject on the rest of this video, because it's true. Yeah.